Does anyone else over-prepare their cars for road trips? Today I have a work trip that I have to go to Connecticut for. It is about 100-ish miles, so it's not like particularly long or anything, but because it's kind of out of my area of familiarity, I spent almost the whole yesterday prepping my car for this drive. Look at what else I just got. Haha. This is only like my 5th time using it, so I am very excited to use it. In New York City, Waze actually does a really good job with the cameras and the reports because there's so many people that wherever you go, if there's a cop hiding or something, it's gonna get reported. And it has a more updated database of all the cameras, the red light and the speed cameras. And with that being said, we're off. I don't have push button start, I still have to use a key. 2016. Tunnel run. Warmed up, not warmed up? Yes, I am. 4, 3. All right, that's it. I'm stuck in traffic now. All right, MK7 GTI, how reliable is it? Let's get into it. So I've had this car for basically 7.5 years and I can confidently say I loved every minute of it. I bought it new in 2016. This is the base model S. Right now I'm a little bit over 60,000 miles and this car has been through everything. Rough roads, smooth roads, bumpy roads, honestly probably even off-roading. Back in 2016, my buying process was first choice WRX or STI, GTI, and then Honda Civic Si. The WRX didn't work out for me, so next on the list, GTI, and I ended up getting that. With everything I know now, if I had to go back in time, I think I would still stick with the GTI. Mainly for reasons in terms of power, ease of modding power, and also practicality. Because when I was first getting cars, you know, I knew about cars, but I didn't know as much about it as I do now. For example, like Subarus, they have to get a custom tune, and then if you do anything to it, you then have to retune it, you know, throw an intake, retune it. But with this GTI and MQBs overall, it's basically what the TikToks have said. You're basically just downloading more power, and that's how easy it is. Plug in your computer, put in a new file, and you're good to go. Throw in an intake, throw in a downpipe, you don't have to retune. Here are the mods I currently have on my GTI. Keep in mind, you know, my GTI is my daily driver and in fact my only car. So I would like to say that I pretty much have been through every scenario with it and I know it pretty well. But then again, this is still just my own user experience. These are all just all the problems that I've had. So the first problem I had was from a Circuit Works downpipe. They're not like an eBay downpipe, I don't think so. But again, they aren't like the best quality ones. Like it was a well-known thing that it was like in the middle of budget and quality. And I didn't even buy this new, I bought it off of a friend who had a GTI, he sold his. The problem that I had with it was one of the welds, it just broke. One day I was like, why is my car so loud? And turns out that's what happened. And at that time, actually, I think that was when I just tuned to Unitronic Stage 2 with the Burpo tune, which got me thinking like, did it break because it was just time and like normal? Or did it break because I was on the Burpo tune a lot from Unitronic? Regardless, you know, I wasn't too mad about it. It was not the best downpipe. I knew what I was getting. It was dirt cheap. The second problem was there was a coolant adapter. One of the lines, there was an adapter that runs above my turbo and that adapter just broke. I parked one day and I was like, there's steam coming out of my hood one day. It was such a lucky experience too, because like if I didn't catch that at that night, the next day if I went somewhere, I would have been assed out. It was like dripping coolant onto my turbo. I was like, what is going on? I was like, okay, I'm just gonna drive it down to Josh to get it fixed. I was on the way and all of a sudden, warning, no coolant. All my coolant which is on the floor. I had to call a tow truck and towed it back to my local mechanic shop. And apparently that is a very common problem. And I think someone even created like a metal adapter for that part because people are just like, it's just bound to happen again if it's plastic. And luckily now, I guess it's about like, I don't know, 4 years later, it still hasn't happened yet. So fingers crossed. A more recent problem that I only got fixed this year, my wastegate in my turbo was stuck. I had to replace the whole turbo. It was only like 200 bucks. I had to stop recording because my freaking camera overheated. What were we up to? Turbo failure. During a cold start, I would cold start my car and then if I immediately like got on the highway, like an on-ramp, I'm not even like pushing it, just get up to speed, all of a sudden would get a CEO. No, it was an EPC light, yeah. And I would go into limp mode. It started off slow and in fact, what I did back then was, even if I got the EPC light, if I pulled over and it was up to temperature, turned my car off and restarted it, it was fine, and I can go balls to the walls, all out, turbo, everything, and it been fine. But eventually it got progressively worse and worse, to the point where every time I would get on boost, even when I was up to temperature, it would just EPC like go into limp mode. I could still drive it and everything, but just no power, no boost. So that happened, and then I finally was able to get a new IS20. I have two scenarios where it wasn't exactly a problem, but just something I should take a note of. And it was 2 times I had a low oil warning pop up, but that's it. It was just like boom, low oil warning. And both times I still drove it home. The next day I went to get a quart of oil, refilled it, and it was fine. And what's interesting was, again, both times was due to when I was due for an oil change. Like I would be at like 49,000 something, and I'm like, oh, only a couple hundred more miles, and then it'll be exactly at the 5,000 mark, and I'll go change it. And both times it was like I was about to go do an oil change one of these days anyways, and that's when it happened. And I think it might just be due to naturally burning oil, because I kind of go for long periods of time without changing my oil. Like within that $5,000 mark maintenance, right? It's a pretty long time. But I've had no like other problems associated with that, just low engine oil. The last time that oil problem happened was with this oil change actually. And I asked Josh, since he's under the car and stuff, like, could you just take a quick look at it, make sure nothing is leaking, oil and coolant, and he seemed like, you know, like everything was fine. So I don't think it's a problem to worry about. And then another thing that I don't think is a problem yet, I noticed there was a crack in my coolant reservoir. I guess it's not like a problem yet. I feel like I might have to change that whole reservoir soon. So now my next problem, I cracked my oil pan because the New York roads are just terrible. And then a plastic oil pan, amazing. Which actually gave me a theory that the Mark 8, it's the same platform, same everything, but their oil pans are metal. So I'm like, could I just swap those over? But anyways, I cracked my oil pan. I went to the dealer to get that fixed. It was like a $500 fix. When they were fixing that, they told me my thermostat or my water pump, one of them was leaking, and they fixed that for free, which, as we all know now, is a common Volkswagen problem. And this also kind of relates to a point that I've made across all my videos, where for people that are like worried about warranty and that's why they don't mount their car, I actually went in to get the oil pan fix, right? It was during a time when I had a JB4 and I had an aftermarket downpipe on. I had the Circuit Works downpipe on, and I had a check engine light just driving it like that, and they actually cleared it for me, but they only charged me for the oil pan, which it's not something that would be covered under warranty anyways. But they fixed my thermostat and water pump and whatever else for free. So something just good to know. I think when we're talking about problems, I think it's important to talk about maintenance. I generally just follow the DAP, the Dolce Auto Part calendar. I don't follow it to a T, but once I reach those milestones, I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll do that. For example, 60,000, I just replaced my serpentine belt, had a coolant flush. I changed my oil every 5,000. The dealership told me every 10,000. I prefer the fresh oil getting into it anyways. And you know, because I buy through FCP Euro, it's basically free changes that I just pay for labor. And then just the obvious stuff like a cabin filter, all that. So I think for me and my experience, I think it's pretty safe to say that I've had a generally problem-free experience, nothing catastrophic, and that's what I'm hoping to keep it at. As long as none of the expensive parts go, I should be fine, which means no engine rebuilds, please. No DSG mecha system, whatever else. Those two things I think would be the most expensive to fix on the car. You know, everything else that would happen, just basic wear and tear maintenance stuff. Although, you know, based on everything I've said, obviously I've had problems. But again, that is with every car, right? Even your Toyotas and Hondas, they have recalls and stuff all the time. If I had to do it again, I probably would, again, get a GTI. If a problem does occur, just deal with it. And you know, if you're buying used, obviously thoroughly check it so that you don't buy a car with problems. Other than that, with everything being said, again, you know, this is just my experience with my GTI, 7 years, 60,000 miles, love it. So finally made it to Connecticut where I'm supposed to go. I'm sad that I only got up to 31 miles per gallon. Maybe because I got a bunch of luggage. Because usually for something like this, I would be getting like 33, 34. I think the most I've ever gotten was like 38. This is where I'm gonna be staying at for the next 3 days. There is no shortage of bugs out here, Jesus Christ. But the car did phenomenal, smooth, other than, you know, the crappy roads and everything. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them below, and I try my best to answer them to the best of my ability, or someone else in the comments can jump in and help you. And yeah, that's it. Catch y'all in the next one.